All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to run along and take your seats, we're going to start this first session. And this first session is on the implementation of the Iraqi government's white paper. And your chairman for this session is Mr. Shwan Aziz Ahmed, the IBBC Advisory Council.
Good morning. Hello. Hello. Good morning. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, good morning to all. As you know, the white paper, Government of Iraq's white paper, is an ambitious economic reform plan that aims to achieve macroeconomic stability, fostering a vibrant Iraqi private sector, and diversifying the country's economy. The white paper suggests a strategic direction for Iraq to follow in order to overcome a range of financial, economic, and structural problems accumulated over decades of wars, internal conflicts, mismanagement, and corruption. Now, to shed light on this white paper reform plan and its implementation, we have today Dr. Ala Saadi, the Executive Director in the Prime Minister's Office, who is in charge of the Reform Management Cell. And also we have Professor Frank Gunter of the Lehigh University. These two experts will give a briefing, among other matters, on progress made so far on implementing the projects listed in the white paper and difficulties and obstacles encountered with the work to realize its priorities. So, Dr. Ala, a special welcome to you.
Thank you very much.
And maybe within our time limit, you can shed some light on what has been achieved so far in the ambitious plan or plans of the white paper, and what are the indicators to assess the viability of implementing the projects listed in it. Dr. Ala, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to say thank you very much for IBBC and its staff to give us this opportunity to be here today. If we want to talk about the white paper implementation, as you know, the Iraqi government issued the white paper since last years. And after that, we started implementation last August. Our Prime Minister, Mr. Mustafa Al-Kadhimi, announced to start implementation process of white paper beginning of August 2021. I will give a brief about white paper. White paper consists of two parts. The first part try to describe the actual situation of Iraq economics and all difficulties facing it, and the next part in the first part, what's our target, what we want to develop. The second part of white paper consists also for two parts. The first one is the governance for implementation, describe all the procedures, how we will implement it, the white paper projects, and the second is the full 64 projects in white paper. These 64 projects divided by targets, the total targets is around 366. The responsibility to implement these targets is for different ministries. For example, there is 19 projects responsible from Ministry of Finance responsible to implement it. There's 7 projects for Ministry of Oil. There's 7 projects Ministry of Planning. And each target and each project, there is limitation, there is time to implement it from date to date. So it's not without timing, so there is timing. So when we started in the beginning of August, we start to request the planning for implementation from different ministries which is responsible for this implementation. And after that, we follow up them how they implemented. And we measure this implementation process, and we issue the first report for after 6 months of starting date. Actually, and now we are in the process to issue the next, the second evaluation report for after 9 months implementation. For this first 6 month implementation, the percentage of our implementation, 61%. Let me make some clear points. The 61 is not for whole plan. The 61% is for the first 6 months. For example, in the first 6 months, we have targets. We achieve 61% from this target for the first 6 months. And now we are working in the process to issue new report. Well, there's many difficulties we're facing. Our reform management cell, we should have at least 64 person in this 74, 10 for administration and 1 staff per projects. And what we have is around 12 person for these projects. So we give each person 5 to 4 projects, and that is difficult to follow up the different ministries. I think we put in our mind that we have in our reform management cell, we have 2 options. It's one to success and the second to success also. So we don't have any other option. We should success because successful in implementation of white paper will reflect in all economic, in Iraqi economics. This is the brief of white paper implementation process and whatever we achieve until now. Thank you very much, Mr. Shwan.
Well, wish you good luck, really, in your tremendous efforts, and I'm sure you have support of everybody locally and internationally. Now, before going to Professor Frank, I just would like to remind the attendees that there will be a roundtable discussion session on a paper issued recently called, or launching actually, the paper of privatizing state-owned enterprises for Iraq. And it will be later in the day. This is part also of the white paper, so I would like to invite all those interested in this reform plan and the white paper and the state-owned enterprises to attend that other session. Professor Frank is an expert, who has studied in depth Iraq's economy and written several papers on economic matters, Iraq and China. Now, how do you assess the effectiveness of international support to Iraq in carrying out the reforms suggested in the white paper? The support through the Iraq Economic Contact Group that I understand the UK is chairing right now. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I know. And what are the challenges that you foresee as work progresses to realize the objectives of the white paper? And of course, you might comment on what our friend, Dr. Ala, presented to us. Thank you, Frank.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to start with the second question first, if I could. 2020, when the white paper was originally written, what is it, in April, oil prices were $16 a barrel. The COVID had gotten its beginning. Historically, when oil prices are low, the government of Iraq has a lot of incentive, a lot of enthusiasm about diversifying away from oil. When oil prices recover, then that incentive, that motivation seems to weaken. since Brent blend yesterday was up to what, $113 a barrel. What is your expectation? Is there going to be a weakening of the incentive, a weakening of the motivation behind the white paper?
Well, Dr. Frank, your question, there is two parts of your question. One about the past and one about the future. Regarding the past, you think that the Iraqi government not implemented reform cell, and logically, I think, in my opinion, we cannot blame Iraqi governments, because if we return back last 40 years, there's not normal environment in Iraq. Started 1980, the war with Iran. After that, 13 years in economic embargo, and after that, unsuitable situation after 2003. And you know, the security after 2003 is not normal. So we cannot blame Iraqi government, because they will not make a reform and they will not take maybe correct decision in this moment. At that moment, there's a lot of challenge there. So because of that, I cannot blame them why they are not implementation, reform, management, and improve the economics. Regarding in the future, besides that, there's another factor affect the Iraqi government, that the high percentage of growth in our population. So there is the increase in demand and the resources is limited. So because of that, after 2003, the situation is not very good, and there's a lot of demand from people, and so because of that they cannot, and the limited of resources, so they cannot take a good decision maybe, or good decision at that. And on this time, we will think that they are not taking the good decision, but on that time, maybe it was correct. Regarding the futures, I think, in my opinion, we should use the extra money comes from increasing the oil price in a creative, strategic, productive institution, and investment in gas and FAO port, big FAO port in Iraq, in strategic projects. These strategic projects will make will create new jobs, first of all, for our people. The second, it's increase the non-oil revenue for the budget. So I think this is the time to use the extra money come from the oil to make a new investment in big strategic projects in gas, in oil, in maybe port, in logistic, and so because of that, it's a good time, because all the problems it's reduced.
Schwan, am I allowed to ask an undiplomatic question?
Yeah.
Well, as long as you don't look at me when asking this.
Okay. The new government, will the next Iraqi government be as supportive, as enthusiastic about the white paper as the previous government?
Well, I don't know if I'm with the new government or not in the future, but in my opinion also, I think any new government, even call it, I don't want to use the direction, I want to use the color. Maybe yellow color, this government in yellow color or red color, green color, whatever call it, this government, I think they will continue in white paper project. Even they call it another name. Maybe they will change the names. They make it any other names, because if we go to the white paper project and you read it, I think this, for example, I don't think any new government will not accept it to improve banking sector, or will not accept it to improve insurance sector, or will not accept it to improve customs or taxation systems. So all the projects in the white paper, it's not politics projects, it's economics projects. So I don't think any type of governments come to the Iraq in the future will not accept this idea in white paper. Let them call it any other name. This is not a problem. I'm talking about the concept of the white paper. I think any new government in the future, they will continue to implement the idea and the concept of white paper. Because of that, I tell you, I think that the future will be better, inshallah.
Frank, if I may, I would like to jump in here.
Please.
Yes, you are right. I mean, reforms have to be done, implemented. But when you have it under the white paper, there's a framework.
Yeah.
It's a structured process. Activities within this structure and this framework are coordinated. Now, if you want to do, or you suggest that the new government does it piecemeal, separately. No, not you suggesting it. Okay. That will not have the same effectiveness as, you know. So there, I mean, encouraging them or finding a mechanism to
this government introduced the procedures and the governments to implement it, the reform, to improve the economics. I think the new government lucky because they have something ready-made from the past government, which is give them direction to how they improve the economic and public finance in Iraq. So it's good for them to use it, the white paper.
Frank, you avoided answering the question about international support to Iraq, and
I thought I avoided that in a very subtle way.
yeah, but you can't. I'll ask it again.
Okay. First of all, I thought it was very interesting in the first presentation. Fiona Grant referenced this topic as well. I'm afraid I'm a little more pessimistic. Again, because of the rise in oil prices combined with the Russian invasion of the Ukraine, I think there is not the bandwidth, first of all, of the international, the UK, the United States government, the EU, the United Nations. There's not the bandwidth to deal with other things. And secondly, I think there's a perception that there's no need. If oil prices are $113 a barrel, then Iraq does not need the support of the international organizations. What do you think of that? What do you think of that two-part analysis?
Well, actually, let me give some points about the international support for white paper. All the international partners, our international partners, they promise us to give us some support, financial support, and they talk about a lot of, a big amount. And when we started implementation, they didn't give us anything. And we tell them clear message that if we want to give us anything, we will give you with our condition, with our requirement, not what you send it to us. They send me some expert people, which is not useful for me. I refuse it. This is one. The second thing, only maybe the UK government, they announced to give us amount, and they started with some agency called Adam Smith, UK agency. And now we are in the process to start it with them and to improve the insurance sector. And all European Union, they didn't give us anything, just said Iraq not a poor country, and we will support you in the media, in politics way, and we cannot send you any amount now, because they are afraid about the new government. Maybe they will not continue in implementations. Because of that, we depend on ourselves. We are request some support from central bank, and they send us some support. We ask support from Ministry of Finance. They give us support. So because of that, we started the implementation without depend on any financial support from others. We have some organization, international organizations support us by recruit one person here and one person there, and this is not a huge amount. But when they give us support, we will accept it with our requirement, not with their requirement. I will give example. One partners, I don't want to mention the names, send me CV for one person, said this is a coordinator expert. We want to send it to you. I tell him, okay, thank you very much, but we don't have an organization chart this job. They said, no, but you will not lose anything. I tell them, no, I will lose because this money come in the name of my country, so I will not accept it if it's not in it fits with our requirement. Because of that, we refused to accept them, and we said, thank you very much. We don't want this person because it's not fit with our requirements. So we mentioned it that, okay, you will support us, but you should support with our requirement, not like with your requirement. So this is very clear, and now we started the implementation would depend on ourselves because, as you said, that Iraqi government is not for.
So maybe that raises the point that maybe more coordination is required with the international community, kind of maybe a unit, not to coordinate at the political level only, but also at the working level.
Yeah.
So this is a message, since we are in London, maybe this message reaches those decision makers.
Actually, the UK embassy at Baghdad is I want to mention this name. The UK embassy at Baghdad, they support us and they give us full support, and they arrange all meetings with Adam Smith organization, and we started the implementation for insurance projects, and I think tomorrow and 2 days later there's meetings for insurance sector, and this is fits with our requirements. So because of that, we are dealing with them in a good way.
Well, thank you very much.
If I could,
Am I? Okay, thank you. Frank, yes, please.
yes, if I could follow up with a more specific question about the white paper that was raised, again, it was raised in the first presentation, I think, by Fiona Grant. As she mentioned, according to the World Bank's now discontinued Ease of Doing Business survey, Iraq ranked, 154th on starting business. It was tied with the worst in the world for getting credit and for resolving insolvency. Rationalizing business regulation is one of the goals of the white paper. What progress has been made in resolving and rationalizing the business regulation to make it easier to start a business, easier to finance and grow a business in Iraq?
Well, Mr. Dr. Frank, actually, you are talking about business environment project in white paper, which is, I think, under the number 17. This project responsibility, it's a Ministry of Planning, and they started implementation. The period for this project is take 1 year. The Ministry of Planning, they started implemented, and they started to make some consent for private sector to ask them to receive from them information, and they are working with the plan. But there's a problem in implementation. It's not from our side. Sometimes part of this project is to adjustment or make some adjustment in the law of the company and law of trading. They did their work and they sent it to the consult of the consult who will revise all laws, and after that they will send it to the parliament to approve for this. This is out of our control as a government or as a reform management cell or as Prime Minister office, because this is in the parliament. You know, in the parliament, when they want to make some adjustment in the law or the improve something, it will take a long time because of the process of the regulation, how we will improve the regulation. So because of that, our percentage in implementing this project is 80%. But I'm sure that we are in the correct way. Maybe we will delay here and there, but this is not because of we are not working, but did our work and we send it to other parties, and there's a problem in other parties. We try to solve it as we can do it, but Sometimes we cannot solve it because it's depend on the parliament or on other party. So we are in the process, and I hope that we will finish this project on time.
Well,
If I could do a quick follow-up.
okay, yeah,
Yes.
please.
Will the process of getting it approved by the COR, by the council representatives, is that also being delayed by the formation of government?
Yes, we send all the requirements from the government, but sometimes it's not easy. We send all the problem, all the law, all the requirement, but the time from parliament is not in my hand or in the government hand. As you know, there's separate between parliament and the government. So because of that, we will wait them. We did our homework and we send it to them, and we are waiting. I think now also the government cannot send a new law or the adjustment of the law because we are waiting the new government. So because of that, we should wait. So this is the problem in this project.
Frank, if I may, and still we have some few more minutes. So maybe some couple of questions from the audience. Yes, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Hisham Abdul Jabbar, Certified Public Accounting from Iraq. First of all, thank you for your invitation to us. And actually, I have one question. We noticed that the Iraqi banks still need more support, in spite of the Central Bank of Iraq has obligated and support the Iraqi banks by applying the International Financial Report Standing and International Accounting Standard, but the Iraqi banks still need more. It will be more useful if the British banks participate in the bank industry of Iraq by participate with Iraqi banks, because the Iraqi banks still need to participate with the other. This is a very important point, because we cannot still work alone. If we noted that the Iraqi banks still work alone without other foreign banks here in Iraq. So if the British government and the British banks has participate, it will be more support for Iraqi banks by applying new industry factors and activities. In spite of the Central Bank of Iraq has support and obligated the Iraqi banks to apply anti-money laundering standards and risk management with the other regulation for the banks industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you very much. I cannot talk about banking sector since that Mr. Mustafa, he's here, our governance and banking sector. But regarding white paper project for banking sector, which is responsibility from Central Bank of Iraq, I want to announce that Central Bank, the percentage of implementation of the projects for Central Bank of Iraq, 100%, the percentage of implementation. This is one. The second thing, I cannot say to the banking, the UK bank or any other international bank to come to Iraq. They should take their decision and come to Iraq and fit with our regulation, from Central Bank regulation, and start work with Iraq. Iraq today, our population is 40 million people, so that means it's a good opportunity for any type of business, not only for banking. Regarding the government banking, what I know and mentioned today morning by Mrs. Taif, we are already in the process of restructure government banks, Rashid and Rafidin, and we make adjustment in the internal system of these banks, and we send it to the Council of the law, and they will take some time to approve. And you know, this system it's similar to the law, so it needs some approval from Parliament to it, and I think we are working on this way. Regarding the helping from international banks, I think that a lot of international banks, they are already in the Iraq, and they are already work in Iraq environment. In Ministry of Finance, we have planned to implement it, improve the working in government bankings, and it's going on the plan.
Well, thank you. Yeah, but we don't have time. I'm sorry. I'll take one more question from Dr. Loay, and just to remind you, any more questions can be asked in the roundtable discussion session, which we'll have later on the privatization. Dr. Loay, please.
Thank you very much, Juan. I would like to highlight one important point that I find it widely missed in many conferences, why Iraq matters more to the world, and specifically post-COVID and during this energy crisis that many countries facing throughout the energy transition. Iraq so far producing around 5% of global supply. This means energy security matters more to global economic security. Now, we're not talking about just the 5%. We're talking about a potential that this 5% could double to 10%. And it's very possible, very challenging, but very possible. And one must remember that this 5% was a result of a major international contribution and participation in the oil industry that tripled the production since 2003 to reach that 5%. Even the widely cursed power generation in Iraq was improved sevenfold since April 2003. It went up from 3,000 megawatts to just over 20,000 megawatts. Yes, it's not enough, but it's a significant improvement if we would compare that, how much the Ba'ath regime, for example, contributed to that power sector with an iron fist control of the country for over a quarter of a century. Just in my previous government, we added 3.5 gigawatts just in 1 year. That is almost more than what Saddam delivered on the eve of the regime change. So just to give you a perspective about that. So the energy security matters more when it comes to conventional producers like Iraq. And Iraq needs the maximum support to move this agenda forward. The last thing I wanted to mention is that we've all seen how diplomatic missions engaging with various countries and producers specifically, trying to compensate for the losses of Russian supply of oil and gas because of the energy scarcity that could be as a result of sanctions. One should not act as in reactive mode. We need to prepare for these kind of scenarios. So the helping Iraq and supporting its energy capacity as we progress for the future, it's a necessity not only for Iraq, but for the rest of the world. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Dr. Loay. Really valuable point. Iraq can contribute to stabilizing energy market in the world, and in order to be able to do that efficiently, it has to be stable and itself. So that's why Iraq matters for the international community to support it in order to be able to achieve its normal role within the international arena. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attendance. I think we run out of time. And I would like to thank IBBC for giving us this opportunity to see you all and discuss a very important topic and a hot potato, which is reforms within the white paper. And so, and remind you again of the session, the privatization of the of state